Welcome to the Diary of Discovery, the podcast where we delve deep into the human experience of healing and transformation. I'm your host, Jacky, and each week we will sit down with inspiring individuals who have embarked on their own personal journeys of healing and self-discovery. From overcoming trauma to navigating life's challenges, our guests share their raw and honest stories, offering insights, wisdom, and hope to all who tune in. So grab your favorite cup of tea, find a cozy spot, and join us as we uncover the power of resilience, courage, and the pursuit of authenticity. This is the Diary of Discovery. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am super excited to welcome yet another wonderful guest on this journey of discovery. So we have got the lovely Heidi joining us today, and I'm going to let you tell everyone who you are and where you are in the world.
Thanks so much, Jacky. So my name's Heidi Cole. I'm based in London in the UK. It's very cold at the moment.
Amazing. Yes, I believe that there's been snow this winter, so yeah, I'm
Yes.
I'm glad that I'm in summer. I'm not gonna lie. I love being I love
Oh,
being
I'm
summer all
jealous.
year round.
I am jealous. I'm not great with a cold, I have to say. But yeah, at least I'm cozy right now with my big socks on, so it's all good.
I love it. Okay, let's get into the conversation. So I'm super excited to go on this journey with you. And as always, we're going to start at that kind of catalyst moment, the moment that you kind of realized, okay, something needs to give, something needs to change.
Mhm.
So can you talk us kind of up to that moment and then the big thing that happened?
Yes, I've had a few pivotal moments. I wouldn't say there's been one, and I think it's probably the same for everybody in life when you reach a certain age. I'm 54 now, so I've had quite a lot of life experiences already so far. And I'd say the biggest one was when I was modeling when I was 17. And on the outside, looked like I had the perfect life, traveling around the world. And this is like pre-internet days, this is back in the 80s, right after I'd left school. So I came from a very sort of humble background, suddenly thrust into this sort of, not stardom, but was certainly what it felt like for me. And on the behind the scenes, I developed an eating disorder. And that was it was really odd because that was the normal environment of being a model. So there weren't alarm bells ringing for people. It was just, yeah, that's just how it is. But I knew inside, I thought this isn't right. I don't want to continue like this. And that was my first encounter with therapy, which started at 18. And I had thought that it was due to the pressures of modeling, having to be so thin. And especially back in the 80s, it was, you were measured and, it was crazy. And I love food. So it was a struggle for me. Um, but I think what really sort of hit home at that time, where I really started to discover myself, was that the therapist said it wasn't anything to do with the eating disorder, sorry, with modeling. The eating disorder itself was my first attempt to try to control what was going on around me because everything else felt out of control. And she said it was that I hadn't grieved for my mother's death, who died when I was 11. And I hadn't. I just kind of swept it under the carpet and thought, let's just carry on. That's too hard to deal with. I need to get on with life. And then realize that actually that whatever comes up for us, we can't sweep it under the carpet. So that was my first introduction to that understanding. And incredibly, just starting on that healing journey with that therapist, just talking it through and, doing some grief work at home. I got rid of that eating disorder within 6 weeks and it never came back, thankfully. So that was, just an incredible first introduction. And then I started to find, getting into relationships and all of that stuff. And then another big sort of thing came up when I went through my first divorce, that I wasn't really able to have functional relationships. So all of that was, I went to see another therapist to help me with that. And I found that that helped me a lot with the understanding as to why I was doing certain things, all these abandonment issues that I still seem to be carrying. Because when somebody dies, they haven't abandoned us, but that can be our story that we carry with us. And I seem to be taking that into every single relationship. And that started me on that journey with another therapist. She was amazing. She helped me a lot, but it wasn't making enough of a shift. And this carried on until I went through a second marriage. And then I was, I stopped sort of focusing on it so much and thought, you know what, at some point, hopefully it'll sort itself out. And then the odd thing was that I then, this sounds crazy. I went to see a reflexologist. That I promise this whole story will come together, but I saw a reflexologist just before I was 50. And I'm not into reflexology, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go for a session. My stepmom wanted to go, and I thought, why not? And I thought, well, no wonder it was such a reasonable price because it was rubbish. Like I was expecting this real kind of, big experience digging into my feet so I could really feel something. Because that to me would be the experience I was expecting. But it was like, it's just rubbing oil around my feet. And I thought, well, you know what? Let's just treat this as a relaxation session. So I'm sitting there, on this bed. I'm sort of sitting upright on this bed, and she's, staring at my feet. And within the first 15 minutes, the weirdest experience happened. I had this old relationship memory. I couldn't tell you what it was, but it was a really big one where it was clearly a difficult moment, and tears started rolling down my cheeks. And I thought it was like a flashback, and it was like I was really there experiencing the pain of the moment. And I was like, oh, and then embarrassment took over. And I thought, I wonder if she's seen me sitting here with, I wasn't full on crying, but there were tears rolling down my cheeks. I thought, what's happening to me? And I looked at her. She was still looking at my feet, none the wiser. So then, about another 15 minutes later, the same thing happened again, another relationship memory. And I came out and I thought, what the hell has just happened to me? I don't know what's going on here. And of course, I got onto Dr. Google and put in, is there a correlation between old trapped emotions and our feet? And bing, this blog came up, and I was like, oh my God, this woman is talking to me. She gets what's just happened to me. I need to speak to her. This neat person I need to speak to. I need to go and see her. And then, I had a note at the bottom, based in Australia. I thought, oh, you're joking. I'm in the UK, but thankfully, with the internet these days, the world is our oyster. So it said she did online sessions. So I spoke to her, and I said, listen, I feel like I just need to speak to you. That just all seems too weird. And then your blog came up, and something inside me was like, this is the person I need to speak to. And I said to her, I've struggled for years with relationships. I'm almost 50 now. I still can't get it right. I've done a lot of therapy in my time. I have a great understanding, but I can't seem to change the outcome. I can't seem to shift my behaviors. Can you help? She said yes. I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I didn't know what to expect, but it was a whole other level of healing. It was very much on an energetic level, and it wasn't typical therapy where you're talking through all the painful stuff. And in 8 weeks, I did a weekly session for 8 weeks. I shifted more in 8 weeks than I had done in 10 years of therapy. And I remember bursting into tears on the eighth week. And I was like, oh my God, I actually feel comfortable in my own skin for the first time. And it was so odd because when you feel like you know something, but then when you actually experience it, you're like, oh my God, no, I didn't experience it. Now I'm experiencing it, right? And I was like, oh my God, I just want to continue. I know I've finished this 8 weeks of clearing before I start with the sort of other work. And I continued on with her. Um, and then, of course, COVID happened. It was very shortly after that. And that's where I had another massive moment where I had thought that I knew I was rubbish at relationships, let's face it, but I thought I was a pretty confident person. And then when COVID happened, I realized that yes, I was confident, but in my abilities, in my role. But of course, I've been in corporate aviation, flying on private jets for a long time. That was, how I've started before I've moved into everything else I've gone into. Um, but I just realized that, I wasn't diagnosed by a doctor. I mean, there were people dying at the end of the day, right? There was no ability to really see doctors, but I'm pretty sure if I was diagnosed, I would have been, diagnosed as depressed. Um, although I've experienced tough things in life, that was a massive shock because I thought I was well prepared for this stuff. I thought I was, I've done all this therapy. I know myself. I'll be fine with this. And I really wasn't. Um, so I was working very closely with that lady every couple of weeks. And the shift I came through by actually going through the real fear that I was feeling that firstly, I was confident in my abilities in my job, but I didn't have a job or a career anymore. And in fact, everybody thought aviation had disappeared during COVID, and we all thought we were going to die. So I was grieving so much at the time. And then thinking, oh my God, I can't do anything else. Like all I've done is fly for 25 years, 20 years of that on private jets. And although I'd been very successful at it, the industry was gone suddenly. I had no income, and I thought, without the label of what I do, I don't know who the hell I am. And that I think was the most frightening thing I've been through in my whole life. And reflecting back, it's the best thing that could have ever happened. So I never thought I'd be grateful for COVID, but as shitty as it was at the time, it created a massive shift for my life because I really did the deep work then. And I started to see shifts happening where when I was working on my self-esteem and I started focusing on other things, suddenly lots of work came my way in flying. And I thought, oh, it must be because the industry is getting back on its feet because I stopped watching the news because it was so depressing. I knew that wasn't good for me, right? Um, and I checked into all these sort of support WhatsApp groups, and it was despair, absolute despair. And every time one tiny job came in, it was like shark bait. Everybody, everybody's sort of scrambling for it. And I thought, wait a minute, I haven't even searched for a job and people are offering me work. Why? What's going on? And I realized that it was nothing on the external, it was the inner shift that was creating the outer experience. And that absolutely blew me away. And I was like, oh my God. And I kept doing this work and then it just kept mushrooming. And I thought, oh my God, like this is so, so important for people in this industry. And I had people constantly reaching out to me. I did a little blog and stuff, but nothing major. And people were just like, oh my God, I need help. I'm not in a good place. I don't know how to cope with what's going on. And I thought, I just need to get out there and start helping. And then that developed into a course to bring flight attendants into the corporate flying world, but from a very different perspective of not trying to be this sort of perfect butler or something in the cabin, but although our technical skills have to be very good, there is an expectation when somebody's paying so much for a flight, but it's about how we feel to be around. And a big part of that is the relationship that we build with ourselves. As I say, I thought I'd done that. And I was like, oh, I had so far to go. Um, so that started building into that. And then on the back of that, with that self-esteem journey I was doing, it started to show up in my career on an unprecedented level. And obviously, we'll talk about what it's led into. But it also started to shift my relationship, like my relationships. And then I've now had one long relationship that I've finally been able to make it work. I just realized the common denominator was me. I was like, but I just couldn't find the level of support that I needed because I didn't know what I needed. And it's almost like when I found it, I was like, yes, that's it. And I've I continue to invest in that journey every 2 weeks. And I've been doing that for a good 5 years now. I also do a lot of a great deal of presence and awareness work. Anything I can get my hands on that's, human behavior, psychology, you name it. I've been the perfect guinea pig for it all myself. I'm always sharing my own journey about it, very openly as well. So I just hope that, anything that's helped me will help others. And I just feel like it's very important to bring that human aspect in to everything, especially if we're dealing with other humans. We're humans ourselves. And when we're dealing with other humans, this is at play. And it's not only in work relationships, it's love relationships. So yeah, so that's inspired me to sort of take things in that direction. I wouldn't have that business if I hadn't gone through that journey. So yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I love that so much. There's so many lessons already just in like this first bit, and like I like we're gonna dive into all of this more, definitely. I think it's so incredible. But I think like there's a couple of things that really sort of stood out to me as you were talking through that journey. And I think like the biggest one for me was that thing of like you're the common denominator.
Mm,
So like a lot of people will always look outward and go, this isn't working for me, they're out to get me. And whether it is like in relationships or even just with like social media and being a business owner, people are like, the algorithm is against me. And like, like everyone's always looking for that external reason why something
mhm,
isn't working or why their life can't be easy or why they can't have the things that they want. And I think like this is such an incredible piece of like wisdom for people to sort of hold on to, is like in your life you are the common denominator.
mhm,
If things
mhm.
aren't working
Yeah.
in lots of different areas, you are the common denominator. The way that you show up is what is affecting that. And the other thing that you said, I think, as well, which was really, I think, is a really important kind of lesson, and I'm sure we'll talk about it more as we go through, was um the idea where you said that like it was what was on the inside that was reflecting out and actually making that work come in, and you unplugging from all of the drama that was happening in the industry and
Yes.
just being like, actually, I'm just going to like do my thing, I'm going to develop myself, I'm going to focus on my kind of world here. And I mean, for so many people, when COVID happened, as much as it was really scary, a lot of people were actually having the best time because their
Mm,
businesses were just on furlough. And especially in the UK, people were kind of kicking back and sunning themselves in their gardens. But I think there were some industries that were actually really stressed out at
mhm,
the long term. Like, what does this actually mean for us in the long term? And aviation, holiday companies, I think those were the really big hit industries. So it's interesting to hear that kind of perspective from somebody in that industry as well. I think that that's really incredible. So I guess like as you were going on the journey and potentially like maybe from that kind of like COVID time
mm.
until where you are now, what do you think the biggest thing that you had to embrace about yourself or learn about yourself was to actually make this journey possible?
I think I realized that we take ourselves with us wherever we go. And no matter what we step into to try and reinvent ourselves, it's just wearing a different hat, but it's still us. And I realized more and more that the greatest gift that we can give ourselves is to really enrich that relationship with ourselves. Um, and I didn't realize how much of that I needed to do for myself. Like, the external trappings of success that I had for a very long time. And, even before this, it was very fragile because it was based on as long as the external stuff's fine, I'm fine. And what it's helped me to do now is that, even, if times are tough or, things that would have really scared me in the past, now I'm like, look at what I've already come through, and really comparing myself with my past version rather than comparing myself to others. I also believe we all have an amazing gift to share, no matter who we are. There is something unique that we have. Um, and I think just always reflecting back on that, remembering that, and also what's been really amazing is that over the years, people have reached back out to me and said, I don't know if you remember speaking to me, but I reached out to you during COVID and you really put some light in a very dark day. Like I was having a very dark time and I was like, oh my God, like that means more to me than anything. And although I sort of offer that light, I suppose, through career support, there's a big part of it that although it's career support in this particular industry as part of what I do, a lot of it is actually just sharing light and love unto ultimately. Each and every one of us needs it. And when we are sort of fill our cup with that, I feel like the possibilities are endless. The way we approach the day shifts, the way we might speak to somebody else or somebody in the street, brighten up their day, and that ripple effect. And that to me is, I mean, it's priceless, really. I can't put a price on that, you know. And the wonderful thing is that when we give in that way, it gives back to us at the same time. It's uplifting for us as well. So yeah, I think that's been something that I've learned as I've gone, and also that no matter what we do in life, you know, I've beaten myself up so much back in the day, and I thought, oh, if I'd just taken that opportunity, or oh, if I'd just done this, or but I've realized that the journey is meant to be just as it is because even though I might have reflected back on things that, oh, that was the wrong choice, or I shouldn't have been with that person, or maybe I shouldn't have done that job, or whatever it was, it's all come together now to help me to support others with, oh, well, when you go through this and this is, and that nothing has been a waste. Absolutely nothing. There is something that we've done that we can pull from that will absolutely shift what we are doing now, or we can contribute to what we're doing now. There is nothing that's a waste. Um, and that just feels bloody good, to be honest.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. I feel very similarly in that like you have a choice with everything that you go through. You can let it define who you are in a positive way or in a
Mhm.
negative way.
Yeah.
And I think that if you are actively choosing to use those moments as growth points and as learning points and as something that you can use to give back and use to encourage others and I mean, it's why I help people tell their stories. Like it's literally
Yeah.
the reason for the podcast. I think like that is a really, really incredible it's an incredible offering that people have and a mindset that people have in how they show up. But I think it is a mindset. Like you have to actively choose
Yes.
to not be the victim in all situations. And you know, I think that like being a victim is a mentality over a like a situational, like some people are victims of a situation and
Yeah.
regardless of how they feel about it, like that is the truth. But
Yeah.
I think like what once you've gone through something and you are looking at your life and how you can actually create your life, I think that there has to be that level of responsibility and that level of like, what can I do? How can I use this?
Yeah.
Because there are times that are really hard. Like that's just like it's part of the journey, I think. And I guess were there moments for you? I know that you said that you like during COVID, you probably would have been diagnosed as depressed if you'd managed to see a doctor.
Mhm.
Um, but were there moments for you where it was really hard and you felt like you just can't make this work? Like you just have no idea what you're doing?
Yes. Yeah, and there've been a few, and I think definitely I think our default is victim mentality. I've had that a lot. But what I realized is that when I had that, I felt so helpless and disempowered, and I couldn't make a shift from that place that felt good. But when I sort of garnered up some courage and was like, okay, this is really shit and also really frightening. What can I do? And approaching things from that place, suddenly, things started to shift. So I think that was a big thing. But there have been times where I thought I couldn't make it. And for me, it was about, I feel like it happens often, to be honest. It's not like oh, it just happened back then or then. Like, for example, I can't say the company names, I've signed an NDA, but I have stepped into opportunities that I never thought I would ever um, be able to do. And this year, and in fact, I only did it 6 weeks. No, it was about a month ago. Anyway, um, I was asked by a global uh, retail chain. It's a luxury fashion brand that have around 600 stores across the world to come and do training. So sort of that next level hospitality. But because of my approach, where it's that really sort of human approach and how we can impact how people feel. And I thought, and it just hit me. I thought, oh my God, it's because of everything that I've been through, everything that I've studied, everything I've invested in, everything that I've experienced has now come to this moment. But I even shared with that company. I mean, the response was phenomenal. It really up-leveled my confidence. But I'm still on a journey with that. It's very new for me to teach in, sort of big corporate spaces. I mean, I've done it before, but not to that extent where I worked on a 6-month bespoke project and, it's such a global luxury level. But there were times during that I was in tears thinking I can't do this. Like this is way above and beyond what I can do. Who am I to think that I can make a difference in this space? I don't have a corporate background. I don't have the level of education and all sorts of stuff. And then recognizing that, but then part of me is going, come on, you just do it. What's the worst that can happen? And of course, I imagined all the worst things. But just pushing through anyway, what got me through was seeing the bigger picture. And I thought, just chunk it down, step at a time. You don't have to have it all worked out or figured out right now. Just keep going. And on the day, as I'm sitting there waiting to get up, I did 2 days of full-on workshops for these incredible global training managers. Uh, I was waiting to get up and they played a video from the big CEO of the company as to how they were so excited about this, training. And I thought, oh God, it's only me. This is like, I'm sure they're going to be disappointed. Um, and I just got into that flow, really shared from my heart, brought in all of my past experience. And there wasn't anything that I haven't done in my past that wasn't brought into that training. And that's what made it so unique. And that's why I was there. And it wasn't something that I looked for. I stumbled across it. And this is what's really amazing. People people have reached out to me to say, hey, how did you get your big corporate opportunity? What channels did you go through? And I said, I didn't go through any of the normal channels. A year ago, after I'd finished a flight, I was in Sri Lanka rather than fly straight home, because that's what they do. Will fly people around the world. And if it's not your home destination where you end up in, they will fly you home from that place. So rather than go straight home, I thought, you know what, let's do a yoga retreat. I'm massively into yoga. I love it. and I found a yoga retreat, and it was so remote. It was in the middle of a rainforest. It was like a 4 hour train ride. I was riding with these Buddhist monks and all their orange garb. It was amazing. And then I had to take a tuk-tuk and, be dragging my little wheelie up this muddy bank. But it was this real nirvana when I got there. It was just beautiful. The flora and fauna, the atmosphere, the monkeys in the trees. To me, that was just knockout. And I thought this is exactly what I was looking for. And whilst on that retreat, there were people coming through, not many. It was the end of season. It was just starting to tip into rainy season. And there was a couple came on the last few days that I was there. And we didn't talk about the outside world. It's all just about it being in the moment, how beautiful this is. And anyway, on the last day, this lady said to me, she said, "Oh, by the way, what is it that you do?" And I said, "Well, this is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And now I've just started to work with companies that want to up level their luxury client experience, where I've gone in and done sort of mystery reviews. And I said I worked with this one company and said, you've got an amazing product, but if you want to up level it to the vibe and the aesthetics of a private jet standard to raise your prices, here's a 9 page report." And I said, I've worked with a couple of companies, not on a big scale, but I've had great feedback. And I absolutely love it. I didn't know who she was. And she said, "Oh, well, maybe you can help us." I said, "Oh, who's us?" And she said, "Oh, I'm global head of retail of this massive company." And I looked at her and I thought, this is wild. Um, and given that it was a luxury brand, I was like, well, I looked nothing like luxury on that yoga retreat, let me tell you. I had a bandana in, I hadn't even dyed my grey roots. Like, I had a scruffy tracksuit. Like, I just shoved a bunch of things in my little cabin wheelie. Um, and I thought, wow. And I think the amazing thing is that when we're really passionate about something, when we talk about it with that enthusiasm and also how we feel to be around that presence that we carry with us, it will bring us opportunities that we could never imagine. And if I'd applied for I mean, I didn't even have a consulting business at the time. I didn't even have a website. When I got that opportunity, I was like, okay, better set up a website then. I already had a website for the flight attendant stuff, but not for, um, for this big consulting and I was like, oh my God. And then I delivered it. And it went down so well. Like, after certain lessons, I got applause, and I was like, oh my God, this is unreal. Like, I can't even believe this is happening for me. I kept pinching myself. And yeah, I mean, and that's how, my website Outstanding Impressions was born, just from that opportunity. So I was backpedaling. I wasn't prepared. But I thought, right, let's do the work now. I did a couple of public speaking courses, which was amazing. It was all about leaning into presence, trusting that. And all of that's just shifted so much for me. Yeah, it's been incredible. So yeah, during that process was probably the latest time where I thought, no, I can't do this. I'm going to look like a complete fool. Uh, um, but I think we underestimate the impact that we can make and actually how much we know, and also what a difference we can make because of our own unique skill set and background. And to know that those two things, luxury hospitality and really making an impact on a human level, so that when somebody encounters us, whether it's on a jet or a luxury store or a hotel, for example, that we can impact that person through service so that they can leave feeling better. They take that gift of they're uplifted that day just because they've encountered us. And that to me is incredible. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
really is.
that. Oh, I love that so much. I think it's so interesting, like when you look at exactly what you were just saying, like we underestimate what value
Mm,
we can add. Like it's so ingrained in us to underestimate and to not feel ready.
mhm,
And I think even more so for women than
mhm.
men, like
Yeah.
it's so ingrained in us to only go for the opportunity when we feel 120% ready.
Yes.
Whereas actually, for our male counterparts, it's research has shown that, men will apply for a job that they're 60% ready for,
Yeah.
and, women will apply for a job that they're over 100% ready for.
Mm.
And it's a really, really interesting concept when you look at this kind of like confidence and, sort of like self-trust of
Yes.
feeling like you can do it and like going through that process. But I think it's really good for people to kind of hear as well that these moments where you feel like you can't make it, like sometimes they're not these big dramatic moments.
Mm.
Like sometimes they're just in that moment as you're doing a thing, it feels really uncomfortable, it feels really scary, and you've got to kind of work your way through that in the best
Mm.
possible way. Like we talk about the nervous system so much on this podcast because I'm an absolute geek about the nervous system. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And it is that thing of like your nervous system trying to keep you safe.
Yes.
So it makes the uncomfortable feel so scary when
Yes.
actually, you could be very ready for it. It's just something that's new. So I think that is really, really incredible. And I
I
guess
mean,
like
definitely oh, sorry, yeah, I mean, my heart was ready for it. My heart was a massive yes, but my confidence wasn't. And I think just recognizing, having now put that into practice again, because, I had to do it with corporate flying and then, I help others to do that, but feels, it's not that big challenge anymore because I've pushed through so much of that. And that sort of feels, I wouldn't say easy, but it wasn't like a huge challenge like this where I thought I'm starting at the beginning. It feels like I'm starting out in a whole new thing now, and I've got so much to learn. So I thought, of course, my confidence is going to feel like, I can't do this. But all I did was to push through that was just thought I just have a lot of knowledge to learn. So I invested in a lot of learning, a lot of experiential learning, because, like you say, it's like, I used to read books on confidence. I can tell you all about confidence till the cows come home, but I didn't feel confident after reading a book on confidence. We only can feel more confident and have more self-trust the more that we feel that massive fear and do it anyway. And the way to succeed with that is that not just doing it anyway and we're not prepared. I prepared, but I still felt like crap. I still felt like I can't do this. But I thought, wait a minute, I have prepared so much, I've invested in so much, I've learned so much. So it might not go as well as I hope, but I have given myself the best possible chance of this. And I think also, like you say, knowing, understanding the nervous system and knowing that my nervous system's doing exactly what it's supposed to. I'm just going to have a little chat with it right now to reassure it that we are okay. And you know what? It's going to be fine. And I mean, public speaking, I mean, I am at the start of my journey, but that was a massive expectations for me because of the level of people that I was talking to. But I found that leaning into that self-trust in myself, it created that space in the room for others to do the same. Honestly, I mean, I could cry. I was blown away. And I thought, wow, it's not even me doing anything, but it's leaning into that. And that's what made me realize, fuck, we are so powerful. Like if we could only lean into that, I think we're only using a fraction of it. And not in an egotistical way or an arrogant way, but stepping into our heart and speaking from there. The impact is, we can never know really. But yeah, that's what really, that's what I love. But I didn't expect to happen or even know existed until I started doing it. And hearing people at the end say the impact that had happened for them, and whether I'm teaching online or I'm doing a workshop or whatever, yeah. I've sort of run out of words on that stuff really. It's but I can feel it in my heart.
Absolutely. Like I can massively like relate to what you're saying. In I remember the first time I delivered one of our, so myself and one of my really good friends run in-person retreats together across the world for women. And I remember delivering that first retreat and being so confused as to why I was the person who was doing that. Like it
Yes.
was such a strange concept for me because I had been like I put myself in this box so wholly, like I do business, I teach people business, like I teach people strategy. And even though I absolutely loved the nervous system and I loved all of this, like this whole concept, I'd never really kind of stepped into that space of like leading in that space. And so I had that same feeling of like, why me? I don't know why I said I'd do this. This is absolutely awful. Like, and I delivered training. Like, my role before I left corporate was literally head of learning. Like, I've delivered training. I've done global contracts. Like, I've stood in front of 500 people and delivered. Like, so the actual delivery of it was not a big deal. It was not a big
Yeah.
deal. But
Yeah.
just like actually feeling confident enough to stand in that space and be like, this is how your nervous system works, and this is why it does this, and this is how you can build your confidence, and this is how you can align your life and like do all of these amazing things. And I genuinely thought like everyone would come along and it would just be like a great old time, and it would just be girls getting together, and it would be like, nice. Like that was kind of like, if it's nice, that'll be a good measure. And when people left, people were literally different. Like they had shifted in 4 days. They had shifted so dramatically. And people were literally like leaving the retreat and selling houses. And like I was just like, what is happening? Like, oh my gosh. And I remember that feeling and just being so blown away as to like the impact that can be created when we actually give ourselves that space to just hold space for other people. Because I was like, I don't think I did anything really spectacular in that time. Like there was
Yeah.
nothing, it was not information that they couldn't have found somewhere else or somebody
Mm,
else in the world couldn't have told them. Like it's not some
mm,
big top secret, like
mm, mm.
nothing like that. It just is how myself and Zoe position it like during that retreat space.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I absolutely can so relate to that feeling of just
Yeah, I
like
mean,
the,
I
the
so agree with
outcomes.
you. That's just stood out
Yeah.
for me because I thought, where luxury hospitality is concerned, I mean, I have worked at a very high level, but it's not like I'm reinventing the wheel with that, you know. And people can find out about, relating to others and the nervous system, that we live in an information age, it's like o overflowing with that. But that is the difference, isn't it? It's that level of presence that you can step into at the time, and it's something that can't be seen, but it can be very much felt. And the I hadn't realized the impact of that. Like that's yeah. I mean, it's incredible. It really is incredible, isn't it? And I love your story. And I really resonate with that as well. Yeah, I love that. I wouldn't resonate with standing up in front of 500 people. My nervous system would not be ready for that yet. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it
I
was
just,
it was that was the hard one of the hardest things that I've done. Definitely,
wow, you did
definitely.
so well. I mean, I probably the most I stood up in front of was actually yesterday. I've done it a couple of times. I speak at colleges just to inspire the next generation because I see 17, 16, 17, 18 year olds. And I remember what a mess I was back then, my eating disorder, seeing a therapist, but feeling very, very lost in the world. And I thought, oh God, if I could just help them with something that so they don't have to go through, of course they're going to have their own experiences, but maybe if they could just be a little few steps ahead. And I just wish I'd had that at that age. But yeah, I spoke to a group of 60 yesterday. So that was like, oh, I could feel my nervous system going. I can tell you that much.
Oh, that's
Yeah. So,
amazing.
but yeah,
Oh, so amazing.
yeah, it's so
So, okay,
cool.
that actually brings us very nicely onto the next question that I
Oh,
want to ask
great.
you.
Hmm.
And this is, what would your advice be? So, what were you telling those 60 beautiful souls? What would your advice be for somebody who's coming into this healing space and maybe feels a little bit lost or, doesn't quite have that confidence yet?
I think be aware of what you're consuming. So, not from a food perspective, but being very aware that what our eyes are taking in, what we're listening to, and we can do that quite easily. I stopped watching the news many, many years ago. I am blissfully ignorant. I just trust that somebody will tell me if there's something I need to know, but I feel far happier. And just being aware of when we're scrolling, for example, social media doesn't have to be negative. My whole feed is curated with, yoga teachers, wellness, everything, and that uplifts me when I open my phone and look at that. If don't compare yourself to others, um, only compare yourself to yourself. 6 months ago, a year ago, I think this is a big thing online that we look at, oh, look at the outcome somebody's got, and we're comparing it to, it doesn't show the years of practice, the years of failures that they've had to get to that point. Just remembering it's only a tiny snapshot. It's a highlight. It's a reel. It's a movie trailer. The rest of the movie, there's hardship there. So just remembering that. And I think that again, that just recognizing that the inner work that we do, um, whatever work that is, just getting comfortable in that relationship with ourselves, is going to be the best gift we can give to ourselves that will just keep on giving. I used to be a massive advocate of shoes, handbags, everything, and I still enjoy stuff, but I generally buy them on eBay. All my money goes into investing in my learning and my self-development, in just being more present, more aware. You know, I I just want to get as comfortable in that as I possibly can. So I feel like I can just constantly learn with that. Um, and from that solid space, anything's possible. And also what we step into, people just recognize, they're like, oh, this is on a different level. I've stepped into jobs even in the private flying industry I didn't tick the boxes for. But as soon as they met me, they're like, yeah, you'll do. You've got the job. And I was like, what? And sometimes I didn't even do a service. People are like, oh, you've got to have the best fancy skills in the world because that's what gets you the job. And I'm like, nope, no, it doesn't. Didn't even do a service. I just served a coffee. It's, yeah, yeah. I don't know if I answered that question. I've really gone around the houses there. Sorry about that. I just shot off on a complete tangent. Um,
No, not at all. I think all of that is
yeah.
so valuable. So valuable.
Yeah, and I think as well, recognizing that challenges are always going to come up. It's part of the journey. Failure is just recognizing that you're learning, seeing it as a learning moment. Um, and that if you follow something that you love, it lights your heart up, but your mind's going, you can't do that. By following what you love, it gives you more drive and energy to push through the difficult stuff, to find a way to get through it. And that's how we build so much confidence, resilience. It's only pushing through the hard stuff. We're never going to get that from a book. We're never going to get that reading about it on an intellectual level. It's got to be experienced. And it is scary, but oh, the payoffs on the other side are well worth it. Just to even feel comfortable in ourselves and know that we'll be okay no matter what shit happens. That to me is everything. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love all of that. I think that there's so much to be said for that curation of what you consume. I think so many people they just let everything in. And I'm blissfully ignorant as well. I don't watch the news. I'm not interested. I don't want to know. people will talk to me about it, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, and I'm quite happy that way. Nothing bad has happened yet in my life that has needed me to know what was going on in somebody else's life, so it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And I think like actually stepping out of that whole expectation of like keeping up and knowing everything that's
Yeah.
happening, and it really does change that dynamic and
Mhm.
looking at who you follow. I know one of the biggest things I did was I reduced who I follow. So
Mm,
I used to follow like 2,000 Instagram accounts.
yeah.
I literally dropped it down to like 200.
Yeah.
And if you're in that 200, you're privileged because I clear it out regularly as well. And
Yeah.
I think like that's the thing, isn't it? When you can stop worrying about how much you consume and how much you put out and actually spend more time internally and looking at who you are and how you show up and what you want in life and how all of that's like pieces together,
Hmm.
it becomes a very different type of relationship that you're building
Yes.
where it's not that outward comparison. And I think like so many people do talk about this idea of like comparison. And I was actually interviewing another guest the other day, and they were talking about their business and saying how where they're at, and I was talking to them about my situation and how I live now and how I run my business, and they were like, oh my gosh, like I'm so jealous, I want that so badly. And I was like, yeah, but you're 2 years into business and I'm a decade in.
Yes.
And you've got to
Yes.
remember that. Like, you've got to remember that people are at different stages of the journey, and you can't compare your year one of healing to somebody who's been doing it for a decade, or, your year two of business to somebody who's been in it for 20 years. Like, there has to be that ability to step back and look at, like, actually, where is this person? What have they come through? Where did they start, etc. Because it's like, it's such an important thing. And I guess my kind of final question to you, I
Mm,
love this question when I ask
mm.
guests, is what's your next level? Like, what's the thing that you're focusing on? I mean, it might be your public speaking and expanding up to 500 people. But like, what's the next thing that you're focusing on building, like, confidence and skill set in?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so now at 54, I feel like I'm genuinely just getting started. And I feel like everything's been leading up to this point. So I'm still guiding flight attendants to step into the corporate flying world, but with that real solid inner foundation as well. And the next level for me that is still scary, but it's so exciting. So I know that's kind of my guidepost that I'm leading towards is very much what you've just described, the uh, stepping into more into the corporate world and bringing what I've learned in the air, what I've learned in all of my personal development, but bringing that into the wider world outside of aviation, that, that where it can impact far more people when they're stepping into somebody's environment, their store, their business. Um, and I genuinely believe that through service, we can actually uplift the world. And yeah, and I think just recognizing for myself that there's no rush, there's no, finish line. Every time I think I got to the finish line, I'm like, yeah, I'm just at the beginning. So it's been a humbling part of the journey as well. Um, and just recognizing that there's not a rush on these journeys. As we go, other things will pop up, other opportunities that might just take a slightly different direction, but it's not that it's a wrong direction. And yeah, and just knowing that the that it isn't about the destination, it's about the journey. And I'm really enjoying this journey. And I think my next thing is to hopefully attract some other amazing clients to work with as well. Uh, and I think that's the thing for me, recognizing that when things come my way, these are the things that really work out rather than me chasing anything. I've discovered that from my human design, in fact. So maybe answering or responding to a need, um, and going with that and seeing where it takes me. And then, yeah, and just now that I've just completed this one, just seeing what evolves from that and what are the spaces I can step into. So that's my next level, or that I think at the moment at least, and we'll see what else comes up. So yeah,
I
that's
love
what scares the life out of me, but also excites me at the same time. So yeah.
it's literally so good. And I think like this is the big difference I think people don't necessarily recognize on a healing journey is the first time that you are confronted with things not going to help like to plan or not how you thought they would. It can feel like such a big thing. It can feel like an absolute disaster, a massive drama, a complete breakdown, like, all of these things not happening. And it can be really kind of difficult. And actually, as you go on your healing journey and you face these different things and you navigate through and you learn more about yourself and what's possible and what you're capable of, every single redirection becomes easier.
Yeah.
It becomes something that you're just like, oh, that's interesting. We're just gonna, go down here now and figure
Yeah.
it out as we go. Like you become so much more versatile and with that ability to navigate because you are, I want to say, in control of yourself, but not in a
Mm.
controlling way. Just like, you know yourself so well, you trust yourself,
Hmm.
and that in itself makes you feel safe. Like you don't need that external
Yes.
validation or that external confidence to come in and be like, oh yeah, you can do this. Like, I think that it's always so interesting when I ask people this final question, the difference to how they explain the next up level versus how they spoke about the first thing that happened is like completely different energy every single
Mm.
time. And I think like that's like such an important thing for people to remember. Like the journey might feel hard now, but it does get easier. And not because everything just goes to plan, not because, suddenly you crack some code and life just works. It's just because you get better at it. Like you get better at existing and living. And I
Yes.
think that it's such an incredible thing. And I feel like that is something that you are inadvertently like teaching all of the people that you work with as well.
Mm, mm.
Not just about, service to others, but actually service to yourself and how you kind of go through that process. So I think it's incredible. Like, I think it's so
Oh,
incredible that,
I love that. You've just reminded me actually that, I always, even if I'm teaching in other spaces that aren't aviation, I bring from aviation, fit your own mask before you help others, so we're not pouring from an empty cup. And that changed the whole dynamic of how I understood that, and I'll always remember that. But yeah, we owe it to ourselves to fit our own mask first so that we can help others before we help others. Yeah.
gosh, literally. Okay, that is like the perfect thing to end a podcast on. I mean, we can't even after that. I love that so much. So, as always, we're gonna have all of Heidi's like Instagram and all of that in the show notes below. So you'll be able to
Yeah.
reach out to her. And if you are from a top secret luxury brand and you
Yes.
have some, needs around your services, this is the lady for you
Yes.
100%. But it is so incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming and talking to us and sharing your story and all of the lessons that you have. Like, we're just so grateful for everyone that comes on and goes through this journey with us. So thank you for being part of the podcast.
Oh, thanks for the amazing conversation. Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of the Diary of Discovery. If you found value in today's conversation, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and share it with your friends, family, or anyone else you think might benefit from the stories of hope and transformation. Your feedback means the absolute world to us, so please take a moment to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your reviews help us to reach even more listeners and continue to bring this meaningful content to the world. Until next time, remember, your healing journey is valid. You are never alone, and you have the strength to get through this. Keep shining bright, and we'll see you in the next episode of the Diary of Discovery.